What's up? What's up? What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of the Grief Bully podcast. I am your host, J.Nicole. Today is Monday, November the 16th. We are back in the studio, rocking and rolling, episode 68. And guys, I am so excited about today's episode. Like I told you before, all of October, I was in solo. You guys are probably super tired of hearing just me talk. So I'm excited that I had a guest on last week. Go back, check out that episode with Dr. David Rowland. And this week, I'm back in the studio. I have a phenomenal guest in here with me today. I'm certainly looking forward to it. Before we get to that, I want to thank our sponsors, BetterHelp. They are an online counseling organization offering us therapy from the comfort of our homes. How cool is that? Text message, video chat, phone call, whatever is going to be comfortable for you. You can go to trybetterhelp, HELP.com/thegriefbully. They do not take health insurance. However, they do offer financial aid. And with my link, trybetterhelp.com/thegriefbully, you will receive 10% off your first month. Going through a tough time, don't know where to turn, that's a great place for you to start. So definitely go and check it out. I kind of have a bone to pick with you guys. Text me. I want to get more text messages. I want to have more conversations with all of you amazing people. So feel free to hit me up at any time. 856-341-9950. Again, 856-341-9950. Join the Blue Heart Gang, whatever's on your mind, whatever you're thinking. I also send out a lot of text messages when I'm going live, when I have new posts up, just random thoughts to kind of keep you going as well. So definitely shoot me a text. I certainly love to hear from you. So we got all the housekeeping out of the way, and I'm certainly looking forward to today's episode. We've got someone that you know what? I would probably have to go out on a limb and say the energy, as far as people that I follow on social media, is pretty much unmatched. I mean, I think your energy, she just brings a different flair and a different spin. I love the transparency, just the raw, the grit. I mean, listen, you're going to find out for yourself today, but I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to stop talking to you so much until I'm blue in the face and make sure that we bring in our guests. I don't want to mess up her title because it's pretty cool and I never heard it said like this before, but we've got mindful fitness advocate and compassionate life coach, Nicky Gentile. Angela, what's up?
Oh, hi. That is like the best intro ever. When people are like, I love her energy. I'm like, oh, I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
So thank you. I'm so good to like talk with you and like connect with you off of Instagram and like in a real setting to have an honest conversation. So thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk.
Listen, for sure. I think it's one of those things where you meet people on social media. So guys, if you're listening, of course, we met on social media, Instagram more specifically. And I realized that we do have these commonalities with folks, but you also gravitate towards people who are more similar to you. And I think for myself, when I started a Grief Bully and a Grief Bully podcast, I wanted to just be raw. I wanted to be raw and uncut. And then I met Angela and I was like, she's more raw and more uncut than I am. And I love that. I love that. I know there was a time at one point where I felt like you posted and you talked about it, where you felt like you might have kind of not been necessarily losing yourself, but just kind of like maybe toning it down a little for whatever reason. I remember seeing this post and then like maybe not even a day. I don't even think it was a day. You came like back and you're like, the hell with that. Like, no, like I want to, I want to be myself. And that's when I'm just telling you truthfully, person to person, that's when I was like, man, like, that's a really cool person. And I certainly wanted to connect with you. And unfortunately, we connected through loss in one regard, but also through inspiring other people in our community. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I don't want to say, is it Boston? It's somewhere.
Yeah.
Boston.
From Boston.
I know it was cold because one day I saw you driving and I'm like, whoa, we're not there yet.
The snow was coming down.
Yeah, it was like snow.
I'm in Boston.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and just like what's life like in Boston and just being an advocate, your mindfulness, you got your fitness, all this good stuff going on.
Yeah. So many things going on up here. So I've lived in Boston now. I mean, I'm like a tired and true New Englander. Like I've lived all over the country. I've lived internationally, but like I always come back here. I think when you have these like agrarian roots where you're so used to like seasonal shifts and changes, that becomes like a huge part of your motivation every time the leaves change. You're like, all right, hunker down, buckle down. We got to get serious. We got to get to business. So yeah, I've been in Boston for a long time and have had many transitions of careers and whatnot. And now I have found myself in a fitness, wellness, health, and coaching space. After about 15 years of public school teaching, I'm happy to have closed that door and locked the key, put it away
Yeah.
up on the shelf,
Especially
and just keep
now, I'm
that.
sure.
Woo! God, I have never been happier not to be a teacher. Like, no shade
Yeah.
to any teacher who's working right now, but like, yo, I don't know how you're sitting on Zoom with like looking at kids' ceilings and
Yeah.
like black
Yeah.
squares and
For
stuff.
real, 'cause
Like,
my nephew is the worst. I think
I
he's in
can't. Yeah.
kindergarten, and he just got
Yeah.
off yesterday. He says, I was tired of making animal sounds, so I logged off. Like, you just
Kind of.
were done for the day. Done for the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, look, like everybody's just trying, and I think in all aspects, right? Like, COVID has really just thrown curveballs upon curveballs. And I think if you are not used to like that, what I was talking about before earlier was that pivot. If you're
Yeah.
not used to like life showing up in a way that is different than your expectation, then pivoting and swerving is really challenging for people to do. And you get really lost in the toss of your expectations versus the reality versus I have no expectations. I just like try to stay in line with like how I want to show up. So whatever happens outside of me, I'm like, okay, how do I roll with this? What do I do to stay in alignment with myself? Because it's never, ever, 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 ever going to go according to plan. Ever. What is the saying? Like, if you want to make God laugh, make a plan.
Yeah, make a plan.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
For
Because
sure.
that's what it is. So
That's that's certainly for sure. I mean, I think what you said too just kind of segues us right into it in terms of this. And I think a lot of people do struggle in that area of pivoting because again, you make plans and you're just not used to it. And it also depends on your personality. But I think this year in itself has been, I mean, I don't know how many times I can say how difficult it's been. And for me, it's been like a roller coaster. So some
sure.
moments have been great. And then some have just
Yeah.
been like absolutely awful. And it's just been like, okay, you still have to find that balance and you still have to go. So I think people like us, it's a little bit easier for us to pivot, maybe just based on personality, maybe based on personal commitments, experiences, etc. So you have this personality. And then how have you dealt with your losses and just that type of unexpected parts of your life? Because I mean, it looks like you're rebounding pretty well,
Yeah.
just probably
Yeah.
naturally, but
Thank you. That's like a loaded question. Okay, so I think if we're looking at the past 20 years of my life, like of adulthood, um, I didn't really adapt to loss and change very well.
mm,
I resisted it and I got angry and I would like super, what is it like? Just try to control, you know what I mean? I would overcompensate with control. So anytime something didn't go my way, I would like get angry and like do more and challenge it. And I don't think it was until I lost my father almost 5 years ago. That was the loss of all losses. That was the cataclysmic event that divided my life in half, before and after.
mm,
Everything shifted after that. So I think I just wasn't listening to the world. So if anybody is in this space where they're like not feeling right and they're resisting this change and they like are constantly like, well, why did it have to happen? I hate that it did. And there's value in that, trust me. But I think if you're those things, whatever they are, no matter how big, how small, any discomfort of your reality and your expectations is the world just showing up to tell you to change course.
mm.
And I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening to the little like shoulder taps of like, hey girl, you're not on the right, they were gentle at first, like, hey, you're not on the right track. That's not for you. Don't date that person. Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get that job. Don't move there. Just like little things that weren't right, but I was like, no, it's fine. And I would just like push it away. And it upped the ante. Every single time something tragic happened in my life, it progressively got worse and worse and worse. And then it was in that mindset of like, oh my God, why is it me? Why me? What am I doing
Mm,
wrong? Why is this always happening to me? Because I wasn't listening. That's why the shit just kept showing up, because I
mm-hmm.
wasn't listening. And then when my father died suddenly from an aneurysm, my whole world just collapsed. I had nothing left. I had no fight in me. I had no room to fight and to feel. So I just felt, and I opened, and I allowed myself to kind of just let go of the fight and allow myself to exist in this space and what it had to teach me. So
Yeah, I
if
think
that kind of answers your question, I think. Yeah.
no, it more than
Okay.
answered my question. I think there was so this is the cool thing. So I gave you a loaded question and you gave me a loaded answer. And that's what's beautiful about it, right? So like I'm saying like, okay, I have to digest and break down a lot of the gems that I heard you share in there. And first and foremost, of course, and we'll get to that, but our love is definitely with you in terms of the loss of your father. Unfortunately, I've experienced that, but again, not in that way. And that's what I love too, is that when we say that we feel someone and that we get it and we've been there, I always say that with limits, because although we both lost our father, it's still two different situations. So I could never fully understand your feelings and your emotions and vice versa. So there's a commonality there, but I always like to be conscious of that we all have our own individual grief, and it is just unique to us, even though it could be the same type of person or family member in your life, but definitely our love there. So before I forget what I wanted to say, let me say it, is I love what you said about the fight and not having to fight and giving up the fight and not being able to fight and feel at the same time. I would certainly love for you to dive more into that. And the reason why is because I know for myself, I want to learn from that a lot more. And I'm being selfish because I want my audience to learn that too. And I want to get as much from you for them as I possibly can. And I just love that because I haven't heard it put that way. So more on the not having to fight and not being able to be in that fight and to feel at the same time.
For sure. And I think it was one of your solo podcasts where you were like, you quoted Brene Brown, who said, your story will be somebody's survival guide. So if anything that I say can somehow be digested for someone as a tool in their toolbox that they didn't have before, then I'm for it. So of course, like however I could break this down. So
shout out to Brene Brown too, because she's fire.
Can you see that on the Zoom right now? It says "Dare Greatly."
Oh, Dare Greatly.
I was like, I need that like on my body somewhere.
Yeah, have you ever met her? I haven't met her. I would love to meet her one day.
No,
that's
she's
life
on
goals.
my manifest.
We've got to do it.
Totally,
we've got to do it.
List.
Yeah.
Ayanna Van Zandt, Oprah. Like I want to have.
We can just go on a tour. Let's just go see them all. I mean, clear your schedule and we'll make it happen.
I'll drive.
Right,
we'll
right. Wait, we can't make plans.
No, forget it.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah,
next.
Whatever. Right. Anyway, so sorry, but back to what you were saying.
Right. So here's how I look at it. Like if you look at everybody's emotional capacity as like a bucket, right? Your emotional bandwidth. And at a specific time, we can only fill up the bucket with so much before it starts to overflow. And I think for me, in that bucket was a lot of resistance, was a lot of unhealed trauma, was a lot of really toxic patterns that were repeated in various aspects and relationships and jobs over and over and over again in that bucket. It was a lot of anger. It was a lot of struggling. And a lot of that stuff was negative in that bucket. And granted, there was love and there was caring and there was compassion and empathy and kindness. And at the same time, like my level of care, empathy, kindness could only go as far as I've met it. I didn't know how to give deep, honest, authentic, raw care, compassion, and empathy until I needed it.
Ooh, that's fire right there. You didn't know until you needed it.
You didn't. How would you know? How would I know? Like in theory, right? Like we get it, but I didn't know it until I needed it. You can only meet people as far as you've met yourself, you know? So like a lot of my relationships were very like within that bucket, you know, like everything was just kind of like swimming around. I don't know, the ecosystem wasn't really nice in there. It was kind of toxic. And then when my father passed away, in that bucket, I'm trying to like hope I'm creating a good analogy. I didn't have space in that bucket for sadness, for loss, for grief, for like the love, because I think we get confused with grief. Like grief isn't just sadness. grief is the manifestation of love. I loved my father so much that all of the emotions that boil into love, like the arguments, like the dad, what the hell? Like
Yeah.
the resentment that goes along with like you wanting your parents to be perfect, but they're flawed humans and they did the best they could with what they had,
For
you
real.
know? So, and you love them and the great times and the puppet shows and the sports and the bike rides, like all of those things are all wrapped up into grief. It's your past, it's your present, and it's your future. And it is heavy and it's a lot. And in my bandwidth and in my bucket, I had to let some things go. I no longer had time or space or energy to give to resisting, to give to fighting, to give to non-reciprocal relationships in any capacity. I just wanted to be in this space of feeling, understanding what it meant. I mean, my life, I was feeling, I was truly living and feeling what it means to be this cognitive being. I wasn't resisting. I wasn't like, yeah, I'm great. Like, it's fine. Yeah, happy. I'm so mad. No, I was like, I don't even have a word for it. I am all of the things. I am all things. And I think people who were kind of in my friend circle at that time, who hadn't necessarily gone through anything major like a loss, had no clue what I was talking about when they're like, how do you feel? I'm like, I don't know. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I seriously want to cry, never get out of bed, run a marathon, and beat the shit out of something all in one particular moment.
Sounds
You know
about
what I
right.
mean?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And it's chaos and it's schizophrenic and it exists simultaneously together, married with joy and love and harmony and peace all at the same time.
Yeah, no,
So
thanks for
what I'm
sharing all
talking
that.
about, I didn't have, yeah. Yeah. So that's why I hope the bucket analogy like makes sense to everybody.
No, it definitely does. It makes total sense. And I think that helps a lot of people too, to just get clarity on perhaps why they might be stuck, or why they might not feel any progression. And it's a constant reorganization, I think, a constant shuffle and shift. And
Always.
there's no real guidance for, in terms of like a straightforward guideline and just a pamphlet of, okay, you start here and you go here. But if you're like
Right.
what you're saying, if you're not open to reevaluating, to say, hey, wait, I didn't know that I needed this, and now that I need
Yes.
this, I now kind of know how to give this because I understand. And understanding that, where a lot of people, I think they want to, this is kind of coming to me, I think they want to survive with the same makeup that they were thriving with. So I think like how you thrive through life, and just like your toolbox and what you have, is kind of different when you get into a situation where you have to survive this. I think like you're saying, it has to shift, like, well, what's in here and what can't be here and what needs to be here,
Yep.
and just a reevaluation, because it's really important. You have to change. I always say that I missed a part of me that died when you did. And why I say that is because I feel
Yes.
like it's kind of what you're saying there, is even with the planning that we talked about earlier in the episode too. It's like a lot of things are just like out the window. They just kind of just go when you kind of have a loss. Well, a
Yeah.
loss to a certain magnitude. I think it's really important for people to understand that. So if it was 5 years ago that you lost your father, when did you start to feel yourself be able to pivot? Was it relatively soon, or like what was that like?
Ooh. Oh my God, my dog is barking. Hold on one sec. Come on, get out. What is your problem? What is your problem? Out. Out, out, out.
Gotta love it.
Sorry.
Gotta love it.
Ugh. Real life. This is real life right now.
It
This is
definitely
it.
is.
She's a rescue girl and like she's all over the place sometimes. So we're just still getting used to each other. So you asked me, when did I feel like I was pivoting? I think it was immediately. I think I didn't have a choice. I literally remember sitting on my like a hospital bed, like holding my dad, like while he was on life support, like getting ready to take him off life support. In that moment, like that, what? Like, I think just, I now had to pivot that this is a decision. First of all, I forget sometimes how old I am. you know, like I'm going to be 40. And
Mhm.
that it just reminded me in that moment, like I'm an adult. I am old enough and grown enough, and this gift has been placed in my lap for a reason. I am capable of making these decisions. So I think the severity and the honor that I had to respect my father's wishes in that moment was when the pivot started, because the
Mm.
tables turned. This wasn't he's taking care of me. I had to take care of him. I had to honor like an end of life request. That's and it didn't like, and I want to be clear, it's not like I had this revelation in the hospital room. Like that wasn't it. But
Right, right.
I think that I'm just trying to like not collapse in the moment, you know, but I think after 5 years of putting it together, of living it every day, of reliving that, of having it be so much indoctrinated into my life, I think the pivot started immediately, whether I was aware of it or not.
Wow.
You know, I
I
had no
love that.
choice.
I love that so
I had
much.
no
And I
choice.
and I like I told you, it's because and again, I'm trying not to be selfish here because I want to share all of it, but
Oh, for sure.
this is the first time that I've had a conversation with someone and I felt like they were truthfully reading me. Like I felt like they were like no one has said that yet. And so I'm going to be 35 and I felt similar. Like I felt like the shift was happening even before my father took his last breath, because a similar thing, I had to make those decisions about
Right.
end of life care, and I'm staring at him in hospice and going through that. So I completely feel you for real in that moment, where not in that moment did I say, wow, look at me pivoting through grief. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I see my growth. But like you said, when you look back, you say, wow, like things started changing at that
Hmm.
moment. And because you, like you said, you didn't have a choice. And
Hmm.
to be in that position and to survive that decision is admirable in itself, truthfully. And like you said, to still relive that. Do you find yourself reliving a lot of those moments at the end of your father's life, or do you try to focus yourself more on what? Like what do you try to focus more on?
Yeah. I think I have moved away from the immediacy of like the course of events that led up to that, and the hospitals and the doctors and like whatever malpractice I could have. And I'm like, all of that is irrelevant. He ain't coming back. So, like, where, like, that is the harshest thing that I can say.
But
But no
truth.
matter, again, I had no, this is what I'm talking about, the fight. I don't want to fight. Like, the best way for me to honor my father is to keep moving, is to keep moving. Like, the last thing that he would want would for me to waste seconds of my life doing something not honoring who I am, what I'm put on this earth to do, my magic, my talents, because that's, I think, the relationship I had with my dad. I was his only child, and we were like, we were buds, man. We were just buds. And I was his world. I was his world. So to not honor his legacy by moving forward and changing course in my life, to be like, yo, the things I was doing when he was alive, that wasn't it. The biggest gift that he gave me was to teach me how to live, and I'm sure as shit gonna use it. I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use it for him and live out his love and his kindness, because my dad was a far better person than I am, far better. And I want, as his child, as his DNA, to be able to push that forward. So thinking about what I could have done differently, girl, if I could go back and do a lot of things different, I would be like Beyonce's backup dancer. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we want to go into that route,
Right,
like I would
right.
change a whole hell of a lot of things. So, but it's irrelevant, because each one of those moments has gotten me here. And like I said, the gift that my dad gave me was to teach me how to live. And granted, I wish he was here, but I would give anything for him to be here. And at the same time, I value my life in this place that I'm in so much. that I can't imagine it not being the way that it is. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. It makes so much sense. And I know you have to be helping so many people right now because like I said,
I
I'm
hope
not just saying
so.
it to be nice. Like you're definitely helping me too. I mean, I think so when we talk about that fight, it could be
Mm-hmm.
the internal fight, which is kind of what I felt like we were originally kind of speaking of, but then also the external fight as far as like you said, hospital stuff and this and that. It's like at the end of the day, and that's why I love you. That's why I said like the raw straightforwardness. He's not coming back. And people sometimes can't hear that because it's the harsh reality, but that's how I move. And when my dad was
Mm-hmm.
passing, that's what actually when so to an extent, some people say denial has a grace. And I wasn't really in denial. I was
Mm-hmm.
completely clear on what was going on. But I had to take it straightforward like that. And I was getting a little frustrated with like some people because I felt like I couldn't deal with their positivity, if that makes sense. So like I don't think people were coming, obviously they're coming from a great place, like hang in there, keep praying, like it's gonna turn around.
Yeah,
And
I know.
I'm like, no, see, like what you're not understanding is like stage 4 lung cancer with no option for treatment, like where he's dying. Like he's going
Right.
to die. I have it recorded actually because I wanted to make sure that everyone could hear what the doctors were saying that weren't present. They said, Mr. Jones, it's not so much about wanting to fight. You've already lost. It's how do you
Yeah.
want to accept this loss? Because this is when they were trying to decide if he was going to be DNR or what he was going to be. And
Ooh,
and 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 I
yeah.
I'll never forget that. So it's like
That's
I had to accept that though.
brutal.
If I would have kept just
Mm.
being on like this positive high horse, I feel like personally, Angela, it would have took me. I don't even know if I would be here
Yep.
having this conversation with you because it would have took
Mm-hmm.
me so by surprise where I was like, so I more so spent his last days trying to get him to get more so on grips that this is really going in this direction, Dad. And I know that we've
Mm.
had these conversations, but this is really where we're going. And it got real. And so that's why I like what you said is that you just have to say, don't matter. Like, why are you going to pause your life? Because at the end of the day, you can have these moments, but they are not like nothing, Nothing is bringing them back here in this physical bodies and how we knew them. It's not happening.
It's not here.
So
Yeah.
why do you think we spend so much energy on that? Is it just our natural being or what do you think?
I think it comes back to, I mean, first of all, like that was brilliant. Like you've already lost. This isn't about winning or losing. Come on, you already lost. Yo, that's beautiful. That's it. You've already lost. How do you get back on the bus after this loss? How do you go to practice the next day after the loss? Yeah. So I think moving through the denial is not linear. Like the stupid stages of grief are not linear.
You already
And
know how I feel.
I
I'm
can't,
not with it, so
I can't. I think there's value in the
absolutely.
process, but I
Absolutely.
think the process happens like every 30 seconds. Like you go through all stages of grief
Yeah.
within like 30
That
seconds.
was
You know
me
what I'm
today. That was
saying? Like,
definitely me today. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. So I think moving through the denial is there's a bigger question, I think. What is it that you don't want to face?
Mm.
Because it's probably not their death, but it's what the death will now bring up, what the loss now brings up. Is it a sense of abandonment? Is it a sense of, and these are deep, real feelings, guilt, shame, insecurities, fear. And those are the feelings that we run from in all aspects of our life. Like, oh, I'm insecure. What do? Drink. I'm afraid. What do? I eat my feelings. Like, and this is
Yeah.
no shade on anybody right now, but this is
Seriously.
how
Yeah.
our society has really conditioned us to be human,
Mm-hmm.
is for us to avoid pain, for us to avoid the difficult feelings. And I mean, we are even ill equipped in our emotional vernacular and vocabulary to go beyond mad, sad, happy, glad. Like we don't have just the vocabulary to say I am devastated.
Yeah.
What I'm feeling right now is shame. And I think a lot of that denial, I encourage anybody listening to beg yourself to answer this question. If I accept the loss, what will I now be presented with? Because the thing that you are probably going to be presented with is when the pain starts to show up. And that's what we're running from, is feeling. But again, you can only meet things as far as you've met yourself. And with physics, it's the law of like equal and opposite. What is it? Like equal and opposite, what's the word I'm looking for? Like ranges, right? So if you feel pain, you will also feel joy in the same capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So that deep pain will also allow you to experience deep joy. So in that reckoning of the pain, of loss, of abandonment, of regret, of resentment, of shame, on the other side of that, as deeply as you have met those shitty, awful things, and you invite them into the table and have dinner with them and get to know them and understand them, you will now be able to experience joy and happiness and love and connection in the same capacity that you've met grief and pain and loss and shame and all of those other like heavy, painful experiences. So that's how I want to answer that. Like, I implore people listening is to ask what emotion or what thing letting go of the denial will now present in front of you. And that's the thing that needs your attention.
Yeah, I'll echo that. You guys have to do that. It's super important, and even for myself too. And I like what you said too about the our emotional intelligence in terms of our vocabulary and being able to actually explain what we're feeling and not just surface things. Like, I'm mad, I'm sad. Like, I always say that too. Like, we need to be curious about that, and a lot of our answers are right there in those questions, but it's scary. And being a Brene Brown fan and person like that, that vulnerability. That word vulnerability is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, and it's really a difficult thing. But I think grief, in terms of like loss of loved ones, is something that can really break you down. I've watched men on this show cry. I've watched women on this show cry. And I've watched people say, and this is the thing that I love the most, is that they say, I've never said this before, or I've never talked about this before. And so that's where it's like, what we're doing now, having these types of conversations that are not sugar coated, is what people need, right? Because we don't need more fluff. Why do we need more fluff? I mean, really, because like what is that going to really help us do? Nothing. Like, to just someone to say something that sounds kind and nice. Like, this is hard. We don't have a dad. Like, we don't, like, this isn't like some failed job opportunity. So that's why I think grief is different things, and it's all deep sorrow. But my mission, and the reason why I have the Grief Bully podcast and I want to chat with people like yourself, is because my heart is burdened with the loss of loved ones. Because, like you said, when you go through something, you feel you now can give what you feel like you need. And I feel like people need these conversations, because prior to all of this, I never heard people having, and it's not to pat myself on the back, it's to give shout outs to you and all the other 60 something guests that I've had on this show, is that I never saw people having these conversations about the losses of their loved ones in such a candid way, where it can have people thinking like, man, am I going crazy? Why do I feel like this? Why do I feel like that? And it's like, no, that's a real thing. Today I was trying to get my car together, and
I saw that.
It's just, and this is the thing. My dad wasn't even in his best health, even towards the end of his life, maybe the last year or so. And so he wouldn't have been able to fix my car, but he was such a handyman and super knowledgeable that he was going to guide me and say, hey, they need to tell them this, or we need to do that, or go here, or whatever the case is. And it just was like frustrating me to the point where I just told the people, I'm just going to come and get my car, and I don't want you guys to fix it. I don't believe you. I don't trust you. Like, I feel like I just started bugging out. And so anyway, but like the whole point of it is just that when you're in those situations and when you're in that seat, like you said, at the table, then you kind of know what food someone else might need. Like, hey, I think you might want to eat this, or you might want to try this. And so I certainly love
Yeah.
that, and I truly appreciate that. What I want to do now is I want to bounce into our In Love and Memory segment, which is a part of our show that's very important to me, to make sure that we humanize our loved ones, our angels. And whenever I have guests on the show, I like to make sure that I highlight their loved ones. So with you being on the show today, I definitely want to acknowledge your two angels. And I know it's your friend, correct, that we want to talk about today, Jeff
Hmm.
Allen.
Yeah.
And so we want to send our love out to Jeff's family, to yourself, and may he continue to rest well. Absolutely. And then on top of that, it's special because the episode comes out on the 16th. So today is the 16th, and this week will be your father's 70th birthday. So we want to send so much
Yeah.
love to yourself, to your
Yeah.
father, Nicky
Thank you.
Gentile, and just, I'm sure he's got to be super proud of you. And I don't know
Thank
you
you.
personally enough in that way, but just from what I can see, if you were my daughter, I would say, wow, like you are kicking this life's ass. I cursed for you.
Thank you. I
I did do
appreciate
it for
that.
you.
And it brought me to tears. Look at that. It brought me to tears.
I
That
mean,
was beautiful. Thank you. And my dad always said he was proud of me. And when you're talking about your car story of like I can't ask him, I haven't had someone say I'm proud of you in a long time.
oh wow.
You know, like that was his thing. Like instead of I love you, I mean he said that, but it was always like I'm proud of you. You know, that was my dad's thing. So that's a important statement for me to hear. So I think he sent that. So thank
Yeah, and I
you.
gotta tell you, I don't really know if I say that often. I don't recall too much because I
Yeah.
always it's like you err on that side because then you're kind of you could be putting words, I guess, if someone could view it like you're putting words in their loved one's mouth. So I kind of like tread lightly with that. But yeah, I felt led to say it. So we're gonna
Oh,
say that, you know, it's it's
yeah.
it's it's his birthday, but hopefully you got a
Yep.
gift from it. And so I'm
For
super thankful
sure.
for that,
And our
and
dads are just chilling. Our dads are
just
like kicking
chilling.
it, hanging out
I'm telling
together
you
right
what,
now.
if they've crossed paths, my dad definitely, you said you have a beer for your old man. My dad, that was like one of the things I had to make sure. My dad he couldn't even hold the beer can, but I just like went and I went to the liquor store. I'm like crying in the liquor store. They're like, what is wrong with this girl? If she's crying that hard, she needs more than this one can of beer. But but I was just getting it to take to the hospital uh for my dad. But it's a great thing to be able to have these conversations. And so thank you for allowing me to acknowledge them. And I just want
Thank
to jump
you.
into our inspirational boost as a part of our show where I just give a quote or something just thought provoking to give us for the week. And that's brought to us by our sponsors, Adina J Designs. They make, create, and inspire us with decorated apparel, custom tumblers, doormats, so many amazing things. Go follow them on Instagram and Facebook at Adina J Designs, ADENA JAYDESIGNS. And as I say every week, tell them that I sent you. Say the Grief Bully sent me. Give me a discount, and we'll see what they say. I don't know. Maybe they'll do something for you. But this week the quote is, "Maybe I can't stop the downpour, but I will always join you for a walk in the rain." So I'll run that back. Maybe I can't stop the downpour, but I will always join you for a walk in the rain. I kind of think we're
Awesome.
walking in the rain together today.
Always.
That's what I feel
Yeah.
like, I feel like that's
And gathering
exactly.
other people while they're walking in the rain too. Like we got you. These conversations and our experience is cathartic for, I'm sure it is for you too, to share in it. And it's so much a part of my life. I honor it now. I
Yeah.
honor this pain because I live in it every day. And yeah, and it's just a way that I get to connect with other people. So yeah, we're walking in the rain. I
Walking
got you.
in the rain, dancing in the rain, doing everything in it. And
That's it.
I know, and I
Dancing.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that you say that you want to honor your pain. That's a beautiful thing. I think it's important to not always, like you said, grief is ugly. It does have that, but it also can be beautiful in certain parts of it, depending on how your perspective is and how you carry it.
Mhm.
So before we get out of here, I definitely want to ask you a question that I ask all of my
Uh-oh.
guests. And you listen to the podcast, so you might know this. But if you had to choose a color for your grief, what would it be and why?
Is glitter a color?
I think it is. I think it is.
Like, I honestly think it's the multicolored sparkle glitter.
Mm.
That's that's it, because it's all things, and if you've ever tried to clean up glitter,
Yeah,
it, you can't.
yeah, you
You
can't.
can't.
You'd be like,
It
what
is
the heck?
always there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like you'll find it 4 years later in the cracks of the floor, and you're like, "How the hell?" It's all over the place, and it is my grief is multicolored. My grief is sparkly because I have used that grief and to turn it into something I think purposeful and meaningful, um, and hopeful, as well as painful. So yeah,
Love
glitter,
that. Love
colors
that.
of
I don't know. I wouldn't even, I don't know. I kind of, it's weird. Part of me feels like I wouldn't have expected that, but then another part of me feels like
come on now.
I would have. I definitely would have. Like, I definitely would have.
Haven't you seen my like glitter sparkle fanny packs that I
Yeah.
wear?
And
Like
like your leggings, the brightness, like
yeah,
everything is just, yeah. So
yeah,
it makes sense. Electrifying.
yeah,
It definitely makes
yeah,
sense.
something. Yeah.
Before we get out of here, as we wrap up, what would you like to leave our audience with? Like maybe one or two things that you think that they might need or that you would want to offer them just based on your journey.
Yeah. Wow. What a gift that is. Okay. Um, I think anybody listening to this, if you're in the space of loss and grief, you have everything in you already to move through it. The world would not have shown up to give this to you if you were not capable of moving through it with grace and with learning. And there will be a reason and a purpose. And your journey now is to figure out what that purpose is. Why was this placed before you, and how is it going to grow you? So I implore you to break open. You will not break apart. You will just break open and allow what doesn't work anymore to leave and welcome more things and more growth and more perspective in its place. So you're strong and you got this. And if you need anything, reach out. We're here. We got
Yeah.
you.
Wow, that was beautiful. I love that. I love that about breaking open. That's really
Break
cool.
open.
It's a great perspective and it's certainly a great way to look at it. So where can we follow you, find you? What do you have going on? And before we go,
Oh,
I want to
let's
make sure that
see.
they can connect with you. And
All the things.
I mean, listen, if I was them, I would be like, I need more. I need some one-on-one. Like, let's talk. I would definitely be wanting to connect with you and learn more.
Yeah.
So definitely let us know.
Great. Yeah, so you can follow me on my Instagram, which is the Angela Gentile. It's my name with the and same the angelagentile.com. I offer one-on-one life coaching. It's very compassionate based. I work with a lot of people who are in that place of like, I'm angry. I'm angry, I'm pissed off. How do I get over this? How do I move through this? So I really am great at that compassionate space holding. What are we dealing with? How do we like open it all up, unpack it all, and move through? So I do offer one-on-one coaching, which you can find on my website, and I also have a mindful fitness class that called Sweat Remix, which you can also follow me on Instagram at Sweat Remix, and it's all about setting an intention. Like, why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we moving? How can we use this movement to release energy that might be toxic in our body and fill it up with something more intentional, more purposeful, and more aligned? So it's about moving your body, not just for the sake of sweating, but moving with a purpose so that it elevates you to where you want to go in your life. Because as an athlete, that's what I do. That's what I've been moving my whole life, but it wasn't until loss that I realized like I got to start being more purposeful with how and why I can use this energy and what do I want to do with it. You know what I mean? So yeah, follow me, Angela Gentile and Sweat Remix. That's it.
Awesome. Listen, guys, I definitely going to make sure I add all of that in the show notes so you know
Please.
exactly where to find Angela. She's someone you definitely want to connect with. I'm better for connecting with her and growing with her and building. It's been another phenomenal, like just straight flames. I almost want to just put the episode out early, but I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait,
Oh, you
and
gotta
then
wait.
I gotta wait. I gotta wait. But I just felt like it's so much goodness to put out there into the world, and so I'm super grateful.
Thank
Like I
you.
said, it's been another phenomenal episode. Guys, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you leave a review, and most importantly, share it with someone else in your life. We're going to all walk together in the rain. We need people like yourself to make sure that you share it, get it out there. It's not about me, it's not about Angela, it's about all of us together to make sure that we can continue to push through this journey that we call grief and loss. Guys, I tell you every single week, I do have Facebook, but honestly, I don't spend as much time there. You definitely want to follow me on Instagram. I post constantly. I'm the most transparent, open there. So you already know I'm your host. Follow me there at I_am_J.Nicole, guys. So next time, you already know. Love and light. Peace.